America is more than a place. It is an idea rooted in self-determination, equality, and a moral foundation aligned with the basic principles of Christianity. In his farewell address, George Washington declared that religion and morality are indispensable supports for the dispositions and habits which lead to political prosperity. By political prosperity, Washington meant something far richer than material wealth. Genuine virtue, not virtue signaling. National unity and stability. Self-control, law and order, and the resulting happiness of a free people. In that light, and I say this tongue-in-cheek, those in heaven likely view Pride Month as a direct affront to the very ideas that gave birth to this nation. Pride Month has become a farce, driven by modern nihilists who trivialize history's greatest atrocities to cast themselves as victims of an unjust system. They equate their cause with the Holocaust by declaring a trans genocide. They co-opt the moral weight of the civil rights movement with slogans like "gay rights are human rights." Take a clear-eyed look at their claims, and the illusion quickly collapses. Are transvestites being loaded onto trains and shipped to concentration camps? Are they being lined up and summarily executed? Of course not. There is zero evidence of any such thing. They brand conversion therapy as genocide and insist conversion camps exist, yet they rarely define the terms or name a single location. In reality, no one today is forcing homosexuals into such programs. According to Google's own Gemini, the vast majority of people who participate in church-based or voluntary counseling programs do so willingly. What they call camps are often simply facilities for troubled teenagers, a broad category that includes far more than sexual orientation. They score rhetorical points with phrases like "pray the gay away," but offer no serious argument for why this constitutes genocide or causes meaningful harm. When I posted a video arguing that transgenocide is propaganda, a pro-LGBT commenter couldn't even articulate the specific harm caused by such therapy before I eventually deleted the video. LGBT activists often don't even get their own history right. They claim the Nazis persecuted LGBT people, yet the modern LGBT community and movement, as we know it, emerged after the Stonewall riots in 1969. At the time, they were known as gays and lesbians, and the full acronym LGBT didn't come into common use until the 1990s. Applying today's labels to 1930s Germany is pure anachronism. On the Nazis themselves, National Socialists, the historical record is more complicated than the standard narrative admits. Early on, the party had a noticeable homosexual element. Rival newspapers even derided them as the Brotherhood of Poofs. According to accounts like Hitler's secret sex life, the main Nazi flag itself drew from themes of gay sexual deviancy, a tongue-in-cheek predecessor to the pride flag, perhaps. Hitler was accused and court-martialed during World War I for alleged homosexual relations with a senior officer and a young soldier, raising suspicions that followed him into political life. The notion that the Nazi Party was always and inherently anti-gay is bad history, closer to post-war propaganda. Once in power, the regime moved aggressively to bury its own homosexual past under the rug, purging figures like Ernst Röhm and intensifying persecution under paragraph 175. What began with tolerance in certain circles ended in repression. The core reason the LGBT movement remains a persistent nuisance is that it fundamentally rejects America's foundational values of virtue and national happiness. Its ideological roots lie in radical texts like Carl Whitman's Refugees from America, a Gay Manifesto, the Gay Liberation Front Manifesto, and the Queer Nation Manifesto. These documents reveal a worldview that is openly hostile to traditional family structures, heteronormative society, and the very idea of a cohesive, morally grounded nation. It doesn't resemble a movement seeking simple tolerance or equality. It looks like a sustained assault on the cultural and moral pillars that built this country. Therefore, much of the prevailing rhetoric on these issues amounts to rhetorical inversion and ideological reframing rather than honest description. What is labeled conversion therapy is often reframed as inherent self-hatred for anyone uncomfortable with their body or same-sex attraction, pathologizing dissent, while downplaying evidence of desistance, comorbidities, and the contested efficacy of affirmative-only approaches. Claims of transgenocide function as moral hyperbole that equates statistical patterns in mental health outcomes, crime rates, or policy disagreements with systematic extermination. While actual systemic oppression is redirected toward critics who cite biological sex, safeguarding women's spaces, or protecting minors from irreversible medical interventions. Even the normalization of drag queen story hours for kindergartners is presented as benign, challenging of norms through appearance and behavior, sidestepping legitimate concerns about age-inappropriate sexualization, boundary erosion, and the developmental vulnerability of young children. Need I say more? The pattern is consistent. Language is weaponized not to clarify reality, but to shield contested ideologies from scrutiny.